What is happening to the video game industry? More and more, game designers in the free-to-play market are using manipulation and behavioral psychology to get players to spend money. The mobile game market is already dominated with this practice. But the more alarming trend is that this seems to be making its way into the AAA industry as well. What will gaming look like in a decade or two if this continues? To answer these questions, we first need to understand what free-to-play games are actually doing to trick you into spending your money. To start, it is important to know that when people download a mobile game, they hold the mentality of, I will never spend money on a mobile game. People just have this wall up. 82% of gamers said that they would prefer free-to-play games with ads than paid games with no ads. And in the mobile space, 95% of all of the spending happens with in-app purchases. So for a lot of companies in the mobile space, charging money upfront for your game is a bad monetization strategy. It's better for these companies to release a free game so that they can amass a wide audience and then manipulate a lot of people into spending their money. So how do they do that? First, they know that there are 4 groups of people that enter their games. Achievers, people who like to progress. Socializers, people that just want to connect with other people. Killers, meaning really competitive players. And explorers, which is obvious. One of those 4 are far more profitable than the rest. And it's not the explorers, because you need resources to create more content, and they don't want to do that. Killers can make them good money, but they have to be really careful, because if they make their game too pay to win, people will get frustrated and leave. Socializers primarily spend their money on cosmetics, which makes up single-digit percentages of all in-app purchases. But achievers, they know that's where the real money is. They don't need to create more levels or new characters or anything like that, because they can sell you convenience, faster progression. But in order to do that, they need to break down your wall. Because remember, people go into mobile games with their defenses up. Free-to-play games have this whole it's too good to be true vibe, and so people don't trust it and their defenses are up. If they want your money, they have to break down your defenses. But they don't just want your money, they also want your retention. And they can get retention and money if they can turn their game into your hobby. That's their end goal. If it's a hobby, you're emotionally invested, you care. And if you care, then you're willing to sink resources or money into your hobby. To turn playing a game into a hobby, it first needs to turn into a habit. And to turn it into a habit, the game has to be as fun and as addicting as possible at the beginning. And you will notice with a lot of free-to-play games, at the very start, they are really fun and you progress really fast. Sometimes they'll even throw you a legendary character or some gear that you don't have to pay for. But that progression curve, by design, starts to get more and more tedious over time as you do not spend money. And that is when convenience might just be something you're willing to spend a little bit of money on. There is a high that players are chasing that they stop feeling after a certain amount of time, but they are made all too aware that paying a little bit of money will give them that feeling back. Players know if they spend money, the game is going to be easier and it's going to be more fun. They pound that into you constantly. But again, your defenses are still up. So how specifically do they get you to spend your money? Well, they have quite a few tricks, but one is the most important of all, the icebreaker. Offer the player something so good that they would be crazy to turn it down, and it will likely be seen as a good value purchase. Now, as soon as people spend even just a little bit of money on a mobile game, the ice has been broken. Some little switch happens in the player's mind that tells them it's okay that I spend a little bit of money on this game. I spend a lot of time on it anyways. And with that mindset switch, they are now more likely to spend more money in the future. They've invested with their wallet, which means they've also invested emotionally into the game. And with that, they are one step closer to their goal. So now you're more likely to make purchases in the future, especially if those purchases are perceived as good value. But how do you control players' perception of value, especially on something intangible like in-game gems or legendary gear? That's actually very easy. They use what are called anchors. Sometimes even very early on in the game, you'll see a pop-up on your device trying to sell you something for an outrageous price. $80 for a pack of a few cards or whatever. And you're gonna be like, no, are they insane? I'm not paying that. And you're gonna close it and keep on playing. Here's the thing, they knew you were not gonna buy that. And so when they offer that same package again a few play sessions later for like $15, $80 is now what you compare that price to in your mind. Your price comparison for that pack is anchored at $80. Now it feels like a good deal. What else do they do? Scarcity. This offer is only valid for the next 7 hours. Buy it now or it's gonna be gone forever. Humans have an inherent fear of missing out on things, so they're using your fear against you to try to get you to open your wallet. What else? Loss aversion. They'll give you something, like in a progression game, you just got the dragon card in that level. You'll get to keep it if you beat that level, but you just died. You're gonna lose that card unless you pay a little bit of money to revive right now. People do not like to lose what they have. A lot of people will pay to keep it. What else?
Have you ever tried to find decent indie game dev gear? I have, and there was not a whole lot of good options out there. For years, I actually resorted to having Nikki make it for me. So if you would like a way to support the channel and get some of that hard to find clothing that speaks to your game dev soul, check out our awesome new merch shop. From cozy hoodies to pixel perfect tees, our gear is designed for and by passionate developers like you. Support the dream, wear the passion, and join us on the indie journey.
Thinking fast versus thinking slow. If the player has to analyze why buying something is valuable, they're not going to take the time to do that and they're not going to buy it. You're playing a game. You don't want to think of how valuable a double coin booster is at the start of your campaign. That's too much work. They know that they need to offer you something more immediately useful. Make you feel immediate gratification. For example, you just died. Keep your run going by reviving your character, by paying a little bit. Social conditioning. Humans are herd animals. We like to be around other people. And generally, we behave how others around us are behaving. And you'll notice with these games, there's always some clan that you're supposed to join, or a guild. And there's always rewards for joining the clan. Why? Well, first, clans are going to appease the socializers that we talked about earlier, so cosmetics will get purchased. But also, they will announce when other guild members spend money, or when they bought some big pack. They are trying to control what the social norm in the game is.
The socially accepted way of behaving in your game should be paying. You absolutely do not want to tell them that the majority of people in your game never spend money. That's poison.
And for them, they want the social norm to be that people spend money when they play this game. And this also plays into another aspect of human psychology. The stuff that we hear a lot about is stuff that we believe is likely to happen. So if people in your clan keep getting that rare card that you really want, you are inherently going to think that it's possible that you can get it too. And you might be willing to spend more money to try to get it. So they have all of these tricks in their pocket to get you to spend money on their game. And you spending money is obviously good for their bottom line. But remember, it's also good for the other reason we talked about. It gets people emotionally invested in the game. And once people are emotionally invested, they are much more likely to continue spending money on the game. And they really want that, because here's the thing. They are not just after the casual user that spends $1 or $2 here and there. The majority of their revenue comes from what they call whales. And that's individuals who spend a lot of money on these games. And they have a lot of data to work with to help back all of their decisions. And they have really annoyingly enticing ads. It doesn't seem to matter how many one-star reviews they have in the App Store. Millions of people will download it. But with their data, they know how much choice is too much choice. It's important for them to know that, because people do get choice paralysis if they're presented with too many options. So they're not going to present you with too many things that you can buy. They also know that they do need to make you grind for some stuff as well. That's because of what they call the IKEA effect. And they call it that because it means when you put work into something, you get even more emotionally attached to it. They have statistics that tell them on average how long it will take for people to finally break down and spend money. So they know how much content to produce to make sure that people get beyond that point. They know that people find gachas addicting. Best example I can think of is Pokemon cards. No matter how much money you're willing to spend, you can't just buy the one card that you want. You have to keep buying more and more random packs, hoping that you will get the card that you want eventually. They know that people find this addicting because of the Skinner box experiment. Long story short, it's a rat in a box that pushes a button to get pellets of food. But they add in all sorts of other stuff to get the rat to push the button as much as it possibly can. But they add in all sorts of other variables to maximize how long the rat is willing to push the button for. They also plan their in-game economies based on the whales and how much they are willing to spend. They always design their in-game economies so that you should be able to spend at least $1,000. But most of the really successful ones go far higher than that and make it possible for you to spend tens of thousands of dollars. Here's the thing, not too long ago, it would have been absolutely unheard of to release a game for free and expect to make profits from in-app purchases. But now AAA companies are starting to adopt this strategy more and more as well. And on the surface, for profits, it seems like a good strategy because they get to amass a wide audience. The higher the price of their product, the lower the number of people that are willing to buy it. And it's because of free-to-play games that success metrics are no longer sales numbers, it's concurrent users per month. The only way to tell these companies that we don't like what they're doing is to stop opening our wallets when they manipulate us. These strategies are getting more and more widely adopted because they they work. If it doesn't work, they will try something else. Companies have to turn a profit to stay open, but there has to be a way to keep the doors open without manipulating and borderline scamming people out of their hard-earned money. Games like Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild and God of War are proof that AAA companies can still turn a huge profit by focusing on fun and not loot boxes and battle passes. But not every company can produce games that good. I don't have the answer to this problem. I wish I did. Because I don't want to live in a world where I turn on my PlayStation and I have to watch ads every 20 seconds and dodge gem purchase pop-ups every time I press a button. Let me know down in the comments, what would you do if you ran these companies? How would you turn a profit but do it ethically? How would you amass a wide audience while still focusing on fun and passion? The gaming industry needs innovation and outside the box thinking more than ever. That's all I got. Bye.